Retro anime. How did we find it? How does it hold up? Unpacking the ins and outs of being an old school nerd and proving that 80s kids can't remember a damn thing right. These are the mindless midlife musings of the anime nerd.
Hey, mindless midlife nerds, it's Rick and Andrea.
Hi.
We're here because we're talking and introing part 2 of our first 2-part series. This one's covering the second half of Neon Genesis Evangelion. And we kind of just wanted to, just a little precursory intro because this is the episode where things get heavy.
Yes, this is our viewers be aware and advised, disclaimer.
Indeed, yeah. This episode deals with a lot of self-harm, thoughts of suicide, physical abuse, mental abuse, emotional abuse. This series is really heavy, and we don't shy away from discussing it, but we wanted to bring you guys a little heads up before we get started. And we'll be providing all relevant links to organizations that can help you if you have need assistance or have any need for that.
Absolutely. I'll be showing them on the YouTube video right now, and we'll also have them in the show notes and any descriptions.
Fantastic. Well, thanks again, guys. We are always happy to hear from you, so enjoy.
So this is, I'm pretty sure this is where we learn what Unit 01 is.
Huh?
Unit 00 is apparently like an angel, right? Like it's like the child of
Part Adam. Yeah.
Adam. And then Unit 01 is basically his mom. It's basically Yui is like Unit 01, right? I gathered that correctly, yeah? I'm not the only one that got that?
That's what I thought. I thought Yui was like a combination of his mom and Adam.
Right.
Like they used parts of Adam.
Yeah.
Because when I was listening, the blonde, scary psychopath with the psychopath dad were talking about how they made a baby. And the baby was made out of, this is when I was like, wow, we're getting biblical here.
Oh, yeah.
This is when Adam, they took Adam's rib bone and made Evangelion and said, we're going to call it Ava. Yeah. And I was like, what?
You had to
use human though too. So I was like, oh my God, he cloned his mom into a child and this thing.
They lean a lot into religious iconography, but none of it is nail on the head religious iconography. Like some of it's Christian, some of it's, Judaism, some of it's Buddhism, there's really a lot. And I've honestly, at some point, it just felt like they were just grabbing names out of books. But
I have to admit, the use of the angels' names I thought was brilliant.
Huh?
The names of the angels?
Yeah, they a lot of them reflected directly into the characters themselves or the creations.
I thought that was brilliant,
and it serves as a lot of misdirection. In a lot of ways, because you're left to question is like these like religious entities, are these gods? Like what are we dealing with?
Is that ever answered? What are the angels?
Apparently,
I don't think so,
but not in the 26 episodes we watched.
Oh, okay.
Please, God, just tell me. I need it. I've never. Please, what are they?
Apparently, they're aliens, and they're planet seeds of life. And no two angels are supposed to be on the same planet. Like they're supposed to have dispersed, and Adam and Lilith weren't supposed to end up on the same planet, but they did, and saw the problems.
Who's Lilith?
One.
Lilith is who's in the basement.
Yeah.
In the basement, you thought it was Adam, but it's not.
It's not Adam.
You don't find that out until a couple more episodes from where we're at narratively. When Kaworu gets down there and he like, I'm here to connect with Adam, and he gets down there, he's like, oh, that's not Adam.
Yeah. He's like, we're not supposed to be. No.
Right.
So where's Adam?
It's a good question, but he's not in the basement.
No.
Asuka's episode, this is where Brian wants to talk about more than anything, is after losing yet another battle, she gets a lot of performance anxiety, and she can't quite get her Eva up anymore. She's having some trouble.
You asshole on that one. Oh, my God. Really? Oh, my God. She needs some Cialis.
Right. Then we get a flashback on her episode to firmly establish her severe mommy issues. And rightly justified, her mommy was fucked up. And then after losing yet another battle, she's enveloped in her own thoughts during that battle and has to relive those traumas. And she starts spiraling hard. And basically is arguably useless for the rest of this anime.
Doesn't she go into a coma or something?
Yeah, she gets catatonic, basically. She completely shuts down. Depression wins. She just goes completely catatonic. It sucks. It's terrible, and it's definitely like representative of when you fall prey to your own depressions. You know, and that's definitely what she did.
All right, so we need to be responsible at this moment in time.
Oh, I totally agree, because shit's getting heavier.
Right. This was done in the 90s. In the 90s, they didn't have many ways they didn't even care about the depiction of certain topics. Right?
Yes. Yep.
This needs to have that type of depiction, and even if it's on Netflix, they could have did something that said, hey, these depicts great matters of depression, suicide, stuff like that. Because you can't, this could be very triggering for some people.
It could.
And I even think that we need to be diligent and make sure that we actually put that on this one. We're going to talk about these topics as well.
Absolutely. That's 100% going into not only the show notes, we're going to put a note on blast before the episode, to really drive home that this deals with topics that are, while there's help more readily available for these kinds of things now, in the 90s, it was arguably frowned upon. And you sort of just were expected to sort your own shit out.
And that's when it comes back to the point of these are 14-year-olds.
14-year-olds. A 14-year-old girl whose mother lost her goddamn mind and had attachment issues to a pseudo child and caused severe traumatic mental illness in Asuka. And Asuka is forced to relive those traumas through a battle with an angel, and she shuts down. Depression wins. It absolutely wins, and she just basically gives up. It sucks. It's a terrible moment for that character who has tried so hard for so many episodes to prove how strong she is and how she is the best and how nobody can hold a candle to her and she's better than dumb Shinji, and just
idiot Shinji. And the whole time is Shinji is her. Shinji's just a male reflection of her. He's dealing with the same shit she is, and he's arguably less angry about it, and that just makes Asuka more angry about it. Right.
Anyway, it's terrible.
His goes in a different direction. His trauma didn't go. His trauma went into apathy and emotional cutoff. That's really where he went. He just turned into robot boy.
That's right.
And she decided, and not decided, but she used it as fuel to be angry at the world. And they both display both sides of how that can happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Of all of that. In the end, I think they both lost. So.
Right. The angel in this episode, in the next episode, the angel that attacks, is kicking some ass, and takes over Rei. Basically, takes over Rei's Eva, and Rei, in order to save Shinji, self-destructs to sacrifice herself to save Shinji. In doing so, she eradicates Tokyo 3.
does manage to save Shinji. And the sacrifice is not... For those who have watched a lot of anime over the years, you younger generation, if you listen to the show, you've seen self-sacrifice a lot. And it happens, and you're like, oh, yeah, self-sacrifice. It was a lot less common in the 90s. And when it happened, it was arguably on the internet. It was a big deal. And the internet, I say internet, we're talking dial-up here, guys.
Right.
In the AOL chat rooms, this blew up. So it's a big moment for this character that arguably I don't give a shit about. But the point is then she's back. They're like, oh, she's been recovered. And then you find out Ray's back, but she's not quite right. She's not really the Ray. She's not acting like Ray. And
she's not a sun ray. She's not a ray yet.
Yeah, she's not a ray of sunshine. No. And that's when they really start to lead into the clone plot. You're like, okay. It's sort of an interesting thing. It's at this point, Ritsuko is getting a nude interrogation for some reason. It's a thing they decided to do. Like, we're going to interrogate you, but you got to be naked.
And when we say we're going to interrogate you, we're talking about Seal.
Yeah.
Oh, Sally.
Yeah. She gets an interrogation by them in the nude for, again, reasons unreally known, and basically, you find out that Gendo threw her under a bus, and she's there because of him. And she's the heel at this point. She starts taking the kids into the belly of this nerve center, and you're like, oh, she's gained a conscience. She's going to start telling them what's going on because she's, got her shit together now. She realizes that she's on the wrong side of things. And no, she's not. She's just more angry and more bitter, and Alyssa, she kills Ray. A lot of Ray. Not one Ray per se, not the Ray that we just got to re-meet, but you find out that there's a shit ton of empty Rays. And they're all basically autopilot systems that when they plug in them to an Ava unit, the Ava is on autopilot. And that's the autopilot system. It's a bunch of fucking emotionless empty Rays. And Ritsuko, to get back at Gendo, kills all the Rays.
After waking them up.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, they gotta suffer. They gotta be awake enough. Even though she knows they're not like all there, she still has to make sure that they all die. It's a moment of woman scorned, and it's really harsh.
It's generational.
That's not woman scorned. I don't know that.
You're right on that.
I think even scorned women would have gone, yo.
Ritsuko basically proving that she's generationally angry because baby Ray killed her mommy, and she goes scorched earth. She's off the deep end, just like Gendo, just like every other fucking adult in this cartoon. And hey, just a quick question for you guys. It's for me. The scene in this episode where Sato goes into Shinji's room and she's been dealing with the death of Kaji and she's not in a great place. And she reaches out Shinji like she's going to touch him, and Shinji just kind of turns away from her and Misato was totally going to try and sleep with Shinji, wasn't she? Because that's how I read that. I just want to make sure I'm not alone. She was because her emotional language, the way she deals with things is sexual, right? Like she looking for a warm body. She'd sleep with Kaji even though she didn't like him because she has her own daddy issues. And to me, it seemed like she was going to try and sleep with Shinji because, I don't know, it's just something about the language of it. And then he turns away and she's just rebuked and she leaves. It's a weird little scene. It's just something that I wrote down because of was she about to try and fuck him?
Yep.
I don't know. It was anyway. It's how I read it.
I think it was supposed to leave that open for interpretation, but I knew it was about to. I was like, she's about to. Okay, good.
Yeah, that's how it felt to me. Anyway, the whole episode is basically Gendo's human filth. Getting down to the wire here. Asuka's fucking gone.
Yep.
So they send in a new recruit, Kaworu. He's sent in to replace her. You're at this point, you're just like, hey, it's another 14-year-old. They're just going to tap another 14-year-old and get this 14-year-old up in here. And Kaworu turns out to be basically everything Shinji needs in a friend. He understands Shinji. He understands what he's going through. He talks to him. He acknowledges his fucking existence. He befriends Shinji really quickly, and the two of them bond and have an understanding that comes along really quickly. But when you really kind of see where Shinji's been at the last few episodes, you get why he attached to Kaworu so quickly. Like he needed a brother. He needed a somebody to be empathetic to his situation, and Kaworu was that person. So of course, because this is Evangelion, the moment Shinji gets a moment of any kind of happiness or therapeutic connection, we immediately got to tear that shit down. So, Kaworu, turns out he's an angel. Yeah, and he takes EVA Unit 0, and he's like, I'm going to get all the way down to Adam today. This shit's happening. He and Shinji do a big-ass battle, and he makes it all the way down there to Adam, and he looks at Adam, he's like, that's not Adam. That's Lilith. Yeah. And Kaworu takes a moment where he basically decides, you know what? Humans deserve to live. And he just decides that Shinji should kill him.
In this moment right here.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think they did it on purpose the way they did it.
Yeah?
I
mean, it's animation, so the intentionality is implied. But go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay.
They animated it where so much time passes between him grabbing a hold of him.
Yeah.
And him doing the deed.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And it's absolutely intentional, because it's weight of that decision is so much for this 14-year-old boy to deal with. It's too much to have to deal with. It's an intentional period of thoughtfulness on Shinji, like struggling with the decision about doing this. So yeah, there's a lot of intentionality to it. And he takes his time with it because it's a decision he doesn't take lightly. It's not something that Shinji's prepared to have to do. But Kaworu knows what he wants, and Shinji gives him what he wanted.
But there's something about that time that it does something to us too.
Yeah.
Right, there's a moment where he was in hurry up and make a decision, and I thought that he did it. And I was like, oh shit, I think I did that.
At this point, Gendo and Seely, they decide to begin the Human Instrumentality Project. Something that they've been teasing a little bit here and there. But again, the idea that humanity must evolve. So they begin the Human Instrumentality Project. And that's the last 2 episodes of Evangelion, is this instrumentality project thing. Will we evolve into a single consciousness or continue forward as individuals? So the next 2 episodes are everyone's traumas. Everyone's existential crises are explored, and how you land on this is for so much debate that the internet to this day, an anime from the mid-90s, the ending to this anime is still debated this day. Heavily. So we're going to do it tier 2. Fuck it. That's what Evangelion's basically about. I think Evangelion fandom is defined by how you interpret the ending of this anime. Like I said, everyone has an existential crisis, and everyone has their trauma. Asuka wants to be a grown-up. She wants to have her independence and be the best. She needs constant validation. Rei is, I don't know, fucking useless. Shinji, dealing with those same traumas as Asuka, but coming at them from a different paradigm. Human Instrumentality Project would basically mean the end of trauma, right? As all individuals would exist as a single being. Individuality would be lost, and we would achieve like a higher form of consciousness because we would all be one. So if we're all one,
then we all have a complete understanding, and we are, so, the idea of trauma just it doesn't exist anymore. Human instrumentality project failing means that humanity retains its individuality. Trauma continues to exist, pain continues to exist, but so too does our ability to manage it and form bonds and connections and have emotional relationships and the things that modern humans consider, things that nurture us. Can't speak to how characters' traumas are played out, because I would be doing it a disservice. I feel like it's the kind of thing, like, if you've been on this journey through these 26 episodes, you have your own read on this, how it went. But the question, I guess, ultimately is, did human instrumentality happen or did it not? How do you interpret it? That's the question I'll pose to the panel. Based on what you saw and based on how this played out for you, well, I'm going to go down the line and you guys get to give me your read on it. Vic, you get to go first because you're at the top of my screen. Did human instrumentality happen?
So here is the issue.
Vic, I'm not talking about End of Evangelion. I'm just based on this.
Since I already watched it, it's like, it's I'm kind of biased. It's like, but then we did it.
All right.
So, it's like, oh, God. So the thing is, I had my first watch through of this in 2020.
Yeah.
And, it was my COVID lockdown series.
Sure.
And it's like, I watched it, and like a vast majority of everyone, the last 2 episodes left you like, huh? And I've watched the last 2 episodes like 3 or 4 times. And I'm still like, huh? So I don't know.
Okay. You're undecided.
I am undecided. But again, I did watch the 2 follow-ups, and it's like, and then the series eventually got its own Do You Remember Love type redo with the reboot film. So yeah. I can't really give a solid opinion on one because I've seen some of the others.
Okay. Give you that, ass. And also because you went first, I'll give it to you. And you can circle back on your thoughts afterwards. Brian, you're next on my screen, so you get to go next, buddy. Human Instrumentality Project, the End of Evangelion. How do you feel like that played out?
I don't fucking care. I don't fucking care.
Noted.
Look. What the fuck? This is not what I signed up for. This is what happens when you order Macross on Temu. You get Veritex that need the extension cables on them. You get trauma. You get daddy issues. You get mommy issues. You get you get
well issue. You get it.
You get the things that you did not want, and then you have the nerve to ask me if I want to bond with the person who's been calling me an idiot. Yeah, fuck you. Do I want to bond with a person who wanted me to kill my the only friend I was able to make since I've been here since you dragooned me here? Yeah, fuck you.
The word of the day.
I want to bond with a person who was a clone of my dead mother. Hey, fuck you. I mean, not only that, again, I can say I don't care if human instrumentality happened. Matter of fact, there's way too syllables in this whole project to even, did we become one? Was there a union? Did the Borg make this shit happen? There's so many things we could have used other than human instrumentality project.
Sure.
Fuck you. Oh. I don't care.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. That's
I'm gonna call that another a skip. Although at least you had an answer. Lynette, it's your turn. Do you care enough to have a thought on the end of Evangelion?
I feel like Shinji walked away from the board. That after I got really confused with everything that was happening, I think he just was told. I think he checked out in a way that Asuka couldn't. So essentially, he inceptioned himself. So I was like, I don't care. He just went.
He gave himself a lobotomy.
Yeah, he just went bleh. And to me, I felt like that left me going, what? Did we fall? I mean, I can't say yes or no. So I'm gonna say following human nature, I'm gonna say no, we didn't.
Right.
Mostly because if we get to that point, there is gonna be where if we have to bond, we're gonna get everything. We're gonna get everybody's traumas, we're gonna get everybody's happiness, and already the Ava showed you messed up views in that, and then you got your own messed up views in that. It would be like coming to the party and having every bad drug you could think of go on together and then have that. So to me, I felt like after I was lost and confused and not figuring out what the hell was going on after that, I think basically I just followed that process where he was just like, see you later. I don't care what happens.
Yeah.
See ya.
There's a lot to unpack about the visual storytelling that happens in the last two episodes. But for me, it's the idea of existence and reality as being a perception is what I really got out of it. How Shinji gets to basically choose his reality. He doesn't need to be of service to matter, which is something that he had felt this whole time. That he can simply exist, and then he has to exist for himself first. That learning to love yourself and learning to value yourself as a person, regardless of everything, or loving your own trauma, loving your own, just everything about yourself. That individuality is the only way you can have a connection with anyone else, a real connection. And that the ability to self-care, to respect yourself and love yourself as an individual, is what I think Shinji lands on at the end for this. I don't think instrumentality happened. I think that Shinji defied it, and he chose to continue to be a human, to continue to exist as an individual. And honestly, that's indicative of the kind of life lesson trauma thing that was happening in the 90s. You got to understand, the listeners who might be younger, mental health wasn't a conversation in the 90s. You had something wrong with you? There's something fucking wrong with you. Sorry. Figure it out. Get your shit together. What's wrong with you? And you didn't get therapy. What the fuck is that? That's a 4-letter word. You don't do that. You know what I mean? I don't know. It's a tough anime to talk up through the ending of. Are we better off all as one entity, free of emotion? Who knows? No. Is individuality worth the pain that we have? Argue that it is. I think that it's the idea of yin and yang, that good cannot exist without evil, that good things happening are only good because of bad things. Like, the value, good moments are that much more appreciated because of the bad ones. And that's, the concept of yin and yang.
From a yin and yang perspective, right?
Yeah.
Let's say that one praise. Actually, he received praise. He scarcely received praise based on all the shit that had to happen. Right.
Right.
So he hung on to that good praise, but Tokyo 3 got blown up.
Right.
You know, so I don't think I need to suffer for you to feel, you know what I'm saying?
Oh, absolutely. And I think that is an unhealthy example of that. Like, he was so hung up on his one moment of his father's praise that he was willing to overlook all the horror. Because he was just like, Daddy loved me a moment.
One time.
Right.
He said good job while he was walking away. And he knew my name.
Right.
He knew my name.
And I think that's the point, Brian. I think is that by the end of the series, Shinji's well past that. Like, he's like, it doesn't fucking matter if you think I did a good job. I know I did a good job. That's where Shinji had to end up. And that he definitely wasn't there the whole fucking anime.
Oh. I'm gonna get into more during my during my final thoughts.
It's time. It's time. We're gonna start. Who would like to go first?
I would like to go first.
Brian would like to go first. Brian, I'm gonna just random select. I feel like you should go first.
All right, right. Thank
Job.
you.
I nominate Brian to go first.
Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to go ahead and put your seatbelts on.
Sound effects and everything.
I need to be careful about how I say this. First thing about this is that did some more homework as we were, leading up to this moment. And for the longest time, it has been widely known that Hideaki, this series, and not only this series, but Shinji himself, is actually a metaphor for his own battles with depression. Like, long big acknowledged. And ultimately, I asked the question, who was this for? Right? We have seen how, like, for instance, The Wind Rises, right?
Right.
The Wind Rises is a wonderful film, but it there's some deep thoughts that are discussed in it as well,
Mm-hmm.
But it's like the weight of having a dream and how it affects, or I choose to make this thing, but guess what? This thing is taken and then is ultimately used as a weapon of destruction. There are concepts that we deal with from here, but it's never masked as one thing and then presented as something else. And I think it's a huge disservice to the people who also serve and who also deal with depression. If depression requires constant maintenance, it requires self-care, it requires preparation. That's why when I was saying, we have a responsibility to say, listen, we will be discussing these topics prior to it. That way you give people a chance to. As an animator, or as an entertainer, your words and your arts are going to stand the test of time. He could have came back and said, through all the many reiterations, versions, and things that came through, it could have been addressed,
Mm-hmm.
Even to the point where you said that they just made a new dub for this one in particular.
And the Netflix version got its own dub.
All right. I battled with depression, and I actually had to shut off so much of my own self of just interpreting, so I did not absorb some of his own demons from this. you know?
Right.
It's a heavy topic. It's a heavy topic. And it's something that, if you're not careful with, we can be just as bad as ghetto.
Sure. I agree.
So we always ask, is this something that doesn't stand the test of time? It's clear that it has stood the test of time, and it's not like they go overly. They do a great job of making you feel awkward at the points where you're supposed to feel awkward, right?
Yeah.
So it's not like you're looking at something and say, damn, I liked this when I was a kid, but then now I'm watching it, I feel awkward. I can imagine I would have felt just awkward then as I am now.
Yeah.
So yeah, it says just time. I would even go so far as to say that would I recommend this to people under very, very strict guidelines. They do some things I've never seen in a mecha anime. And it's shocking, the things they do. But it's really good. It's really good. You need to be prepared, though, especially as it starts to shift and progress away from the mecha emphasis. So
I agree.
That's my take.
I agree. They use and before we move on to the next panelist, there's a long-known epidemic of suicide rates in Japan being abnormally high due to various reasons. But a lot of it stems from self-evaluation and traumas. And Hideaki Anno was definitely going through some shit when he made this anime.
They said it happened. I'm sorry. They said it happened after he made. What was the name of it? He just released something else.
Yeah.
AIDS and it set him off.
Yeah.
What was the name of it? I'm trying to find it. Nadia, Secret of the Blue Water.
Right.
I found the note. Thank you.
That a boy. So yeah, he was dealing with some shit when he did it. I didn't want to lean on that, and I didn't tell you guys before we started it because I wanted you guys to come at this series the way a viewer would have come at it in the 90s when it came out. That wasn't exactly freely known information. It was just, this was an anime that was on TV and you or VHS and you watched it, and how you handled it, how you dealt with those turns, that was all on you. And only later, through interviews and the internet being a thing, were you able to really dig into the history of it and understand where Hideaki Anno was coming from when he made it. And I didn't want that to affect a read on the anime. So I didn't bring it up before we started because I really did want people to I really wanted our panelists to come into this as raw as we could. But I also knew that we would talk about it. Knew that this was something that we would have to address because it is so very important to the story of Evangelion. So thank you for bringing it up and sharing your thoughts on it. Let's go ahead and move forward.
Yeah.
I'm gonna let Lynette go next. Lynette, Evangelion for you.
So, it's at 1996, right? This came out?
Yeah.
I was actually 14.
Shit.
So thankfully I never watched it, but I would have to say that it took a drastic turn. Like the first half I could get behind. I could see what the draw was, right? You got the mecha, you got the battles, you got the 14-year-old actually being a 14-year-old. Like, I feel like if he could run away and hide behind a building, he probably would have done that a lot. And so you could see yourself, embracing that, like being like, yeah, if I was Shinji, that's what I would do. I would run. I would cry while I was doing this stuff. There's no shame. And then all of a sudden it switches and you're just like, what? And it gets deeper, and it gets darker, and it starts to, and then I had to sit back and go, is this Clamp? This has got to be Clamp, because Clamp does this kind of mind effery all the time, you know? And so, and then I had to look, I go, no, it's not Clamp. But then, and then it just keeps getting there, and it keeps going, and it was like they do every episode, felt like you would watch it, and then somebody would randomly put their nails on a chalkboard to say, you're going to want to remember this part. And then you go through and you'd watch it again. And then I found myself instinctually kind of flinching when I knew a chalkboard scene was going to come, right? Something was going to mess with my head and make me want to hug my mom and get a cookie or call my dad and tell him that I loved him. And this is true, you know, and, you know, it's like true things. It's like I texted my dad over the weekend. I was like, hey, just want to let you know I love you. And my dad was like, who are you? And I'm like, I don't know what's happening.
You know? Embrace me.
You know, it's like, it was a very weird thing that I actually texted my dad a poke and a hug and a happy smile. And he was like, are you okay? You good? I'm like, oh, stupid. And then I go to sit next to my mom and be like, Mom, you want to do your puzzle together? Let's do our puzzle together. She's just going, what? And I'm realizing it was part of those things where it's that nail on the chalkboard thing where it's going to hit you. And if the goal was to kind of smack you in the face and say, hey, say hi to your mom and tell her you love her, or say hi to your dad and tell him you love them and make sure that they love you back, this is a rough way for that
to drive that home.
But I can see how it gained in the popularity with that, because it hit a very powerful, impactful meaning behind amazing art, amazing graphics. You know, the Evas were beautiful, the angels were beautiful. I mean, like, the destruction was beautiful. They hid all of that, and they used all that as like that smoke screen. And so, but every time you're watching it, you're gonna get that on the chalkboard. So, and you're not gonna really know. You know, it won't be a conscious thing, and it's going to be a subconscious thing that's going to hit you. So I'm going to agree with Brian and say, yeah, I'm going to agree with Brian and say, be very careful of your mindset when you watch this. You know, because if you're in a good place, mentally and emotionally, you're going to see it. You're going to see the bad stuff that's in those. That the bad parts that are, I can't say bad, it's not really bad, but you're going to see the dark parts in there. But you may be more mentally prepared for them than if someone who's not in that place or not prepared for that. So I would say proceed with caution. It is a good anime. But like Brian, I wouldn't willy-nilly just say everybody should watch this.
Right.
Yeah.
Can I piggyback on that point?
For it
is, when we're talking about that switch, they do it kind of like a strobe effect, you know. And I think there is something about how a light flashes and it leaves an image in you, as opposed to something that is stagnant.
Mm-hmm.
That flash just as dangerous as everything else. So there's a part where they're asking questions, and if you're not questioned, it flashes, and it can stay with you. And you start, instead of asking yourself about the anime, you can potentially start asking yourself about yourself. You know, it does a very great job of depicting depression, and that is the problem.
Understood. All great stuff, guys. Vic, you're up, buddy.
So everyone has valid things. My opinion on this is first and foremost, I mean, this was released at a time where the internet was still early, right? For consumers.
Yeah.
We didn't, most people that were conversing, in forums, everything online at the time, these were very small, very concise, limited to a bunch of people. Very few people, I mean. This series, it starts off in the guise of a mecha anime. The mecha anime part is phenomenal. It's great if you're a fan of mecha anime. And then as it slowly creeps over, I think that it managed to do at the time something that all other media really wasn't able to do. And that's to get people talking about it, talking about what's going on in the show, talking about the issues in the show. It's like, this anime is beloved by people our age, people younger, people older. And, some of them have been fans since the 90s. At a time before the internet, before, people opened up to others, either people they know or complete strangers. This was a way to get people talking to each other about these types of things. And so for that, I think personally on that note alone, it's phenomenal because it accomplishes that. You watch it, you sit there and it's like, yes, Gendo's a horrible dad, but then you talk about, all the other stuff that's going on and, and the thing is, what's nice about when people start talking, then they start opening up about other things. They start opening up about their own depressions, their own issues and things like that. And I feel like this was probably a phenomenal gateway for that, for people to open up at the time. Also, this did a lot of things. I don't want to say a lot, but things that, a few anime actually dared to try at the time. Where it gets deep into psychological thought. I mean, Ghost in the Shell did it a little bit. And then you have things like Perfect Blue, which also did this kind of stuff. It's designed to motivate thought. It's to get you thinking about it. It's like, I know what I want to say, but I can't get the words out. It's like, my mind's all over the place on this. It's like, it's showing issues that are out there that people may not have realized are out there. And, whereas other issues, at the time, and other issues where people were experiencing something similar and they didn't know how to express themselves. I feel like this gave them that opportunity. So, I mean...
We knew about cannibalism.
So, I mean, hell, we all grew up in the 80s, 90s, 2000s now. I mean, in the 90s, if you had an issue, you didn't open up to anyone. It's like, you dealt with your issues and that was it. I feel like if we would have screwed ourselves up watching this before at that time, it probably would have helped alleviate. No, you don't time me out in the middle of a thing.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. If it wasn't for the fact that you said we grew up in the 80s, 90s, 2000s, motherfucker, it was a range. Oh my God, it hurts.
I know.
Oh, Jesus. 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2010s, and the 20s now.
Yeah, so in the 20s, we're almost up to the 20s. Yes. But
many generations grew up with this, which is an interesting thing in and of itself.
Yeah. And its popularity is still through the roof. But I personally, I feel like if, we would watch this as it came out in the U.S., I feel like on a personal level, I feel like maybe, I would have opened up about more personal issues back then. And maybe we probably, be in a better place now mentally than, whatnot. I mean, all of us have gone through a bunch of crap. And I feel like, being able to open up younger probably would have helped us out as we get older.
Yeah.
But, again, I personally, I thought it was a great series. I think if you're going in as, under the guise of a mecha anime, just stop halfway through, if that's all you want. Because it's designed to make you think. It's designed for you to form an opinion. It's designed for you to open up. And, that respect, I think it's just freaking amazing.
Bro, could you? We've often discussed about how we receive this series, and sometimes it was not given to us in the order that it came out of.
Right.
Can you imagine if you started off with 24 and 25 and 26, and then you had to go back? Bro,
you could only find episodes 1 and then like episodes 25, and then you go to episode 12 and then episode 26.
Especially when the stuff was released back then. It's like, hey, I found the VHS for this copy. Oh crap, we're missing 15 episodes. Oh well, we'll just watch this one and fill in the blanks later.
Right? No, it's true.
Oh no, that would have.
Yeah.
No. It's part of the project. Don't kill yourself just yet. It's okay. It's okay.
So there's a. I'm gonna go ahead and start with my final thoughts here. There's a. It's so important to understand the era that Evangelion came out in. The fervor with which this series took off and resonated with people was big, and I would go so far as to say that Vic touched on it, is that it opened the conversation for mental health for a lot of kids our age. That people our age might be more comfortable talking about it because of anime like this, because of experiences like this. Some of us didn't get that. Some of us held on to our trauma a lot longer. Some of us lost battles to the traumas. And, you know, we knew people in school who maybe didn't quite make it to this age for various reasons, some of them to trauma. And conversations that could have happened were never encouraged. This anime has a way of encouraging you to explore that. This anime has a way of encouraging you to take a look inside and see if maybe you don't understand what's happening with you, but maybe this anime helps you realize that there's something that needs to be discussed. I've seen countless comments on the internet about this anime and how it helped people realize their trauma, how it helped them deal with their depression, how being with Shinji at the end of this helped them understand their own issues. So for all its weirdness and for us ragging on a couple of things about it succeeded at helping a lot of people. Hideaki Anno's personal depression and trauma turned into a piece of art that helped a lot of people understand and come to grips with theirs, which is a powerful thing. Not a lot of art forms can do that, let alone cartoons, right? Because that's what they were called back then. For we were still calling them. Still cartoons or Japanimation. It was niche. We're still the nerds. So this was one of those anime that started to turn that corner and make anime more mainstream because everybody was talking about it. It's probably why I didn't watch it, because everybody was talking about it. I'm like, man, fuck y'all. Y'all get to be anime fans now? I've been an anime fan since the 80s. Fuck you.
Wedgies and glasses, bitch.
Yeah, so maybe part of me was like, fuck you. No, you don't get to be cool. You don't get to like an anime. Fuck you. Fuck your anime. I'm going to go back to watching this other thing. And that, but I missed the point. The point was the anime was becoming a thing. It was becoming such a thing that this medium was speaking to people and getting people to speak, much to what Vic spoke about, which is super cool. Brian's right. Brian's right in that depending on your state emotionally, watching this anime could be either extremely triggering or it could be extremely therapeutic. Really just kind of depends on the person. You got to be careful. It was good. It was really good. I had a lot of fun with it. I think this should be watched, but I think it should be, like Brian said, it should be watched with an asterisk. It should be watched when you're
all right.
able to.
For instance, Inside Out, Pixar.
Sure.
They do a great job of letting you know what this is going to be about. Right? And again, it's possible time and when it would release and stuff like that. But if he is dealing with these depression, why would you willy-nilly inflict that on other people without warning them? You know what I'm saying?
Well, I hear you.
Like, even with the stigma and everything else, before I talk to anybody, I talk to a therapist, or if I call somebody, I'm having a bad day, the first thing I do is I warn you I'm having a bad day.
That's fair. Okay, I got you. I'm going to counter you, though. What is animation? It's an art form.
No.
Come on.
It's
Stick
not
with me.
animated.
Form. It's an art form.
Not...
Mm-hmm.
Jackson Pollock was fucked in the head. Vincent Van Gogh was fucked in the head. These people painted their emotions. They created artwork based on their emotional state. Neon Genesis Evangelion is artwork representative of Hideaki Anno's emotional state. An outward expression is how artists deal with their shit. Put it on paper. That's what Hideaki did. How people interpret an artist's work is part of that process. Artists did it for themselves, did it for their own need to express themselves, for their own need to deal with their traumas. That's why artists do what they do. The fact that so many people connected with it, it's a whole other thing.
So let me ask you this question. We're speaking about the people who connected with it and received something positive out of it.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And we will hope that somebody was able to use this as a means to see, maybe I need help for myself.
Right.
How do you address the people who used it as a means to say, you know what, this is it for me?
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. And that's why I agree with you. This anime needs an asterisk. It's a very
it's the same like books.
It's a very powerful piece of art.
Yeah.
But it's more powerful. I will argue this is more powerful than any Van Gogh. This is more powerful than any Jackson Pollock. This is more powerful of an art form because the story is there for you. With artwork like paintings, there's an interpretation that happens. People get out of it, they put into it. With animation, there's more to it. There's more to that art form because you are able to express so much more with it as a medium. It's more powerful to me. So it's that much more important.
You can ignore, with a painting, you can walk by and ignore it. With an anime or an animation or any type of art form like that, they're not going to hit you just once with it. They're going to hit you a lot with it. So you can't just walk, like you can go look at a Van Gogh and go, oh yeah, and then turn around and just walk away. But if you're watching this anime series from start to finish, unless you literally just turn it off and decide I'm going to stop on episode X and just never watch it again, it's going to continue to hit you with the same thing in a similar way. And so it's going to be one of those, you're going to turn your head left and it's going to go, oh, really? Boom, boom. And you're going to turn it right. And no matter where you turn,
demand your attention.
Put that, yeah.
All right.
And as I said, it's similar to books. There are, authors write how they feel too, and there's some pretty depressing books out there the same way.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And they basically just shove it in your face, and it's really. I like the fact that we can have a safe space to talk about it, like we have here, and hopefully anybody else who's watched it and possibly hit the bad sides of it had a safe space to go to.
Certainly hope.
That's the pace, you know.
Certainly hope.
Is that on Hideaki? Or because can't be, right? It's just like anybody who gets a bad read on a book, that on the author. It can't be. It's an outward expression of his own issues. And that's why I agree with you, Brian. 100% agree with you that this should be watched with an asterisk. Needs to be. You need to be in the right headspace. You need to make sure that you're in the right headspace for it. You need to make sure that you can have a safe space, like Lynette said, to discuss this. Because if it hits you the wrong way, God, man, I hope it doesn't. I really hope it doesn't. And based on the read I've gotten from a lot of commenters on the internet, you're better off with just this, because if you watch End of Evangelion, you're going to get hit with the other side of it. Just FYI. This was the optimistic ending, in most people's opinion.
You went for my blood.
Anyway.
Watch Akira.
Right. Okay, well, this episode has run so long that I will be breaking it up into 2 parts. But I do have to end it now because we have gone on for quite a while.
Yeah, almost 2.5 hours in.
There you go. So that is going to be our show for today. So until next time, keep calm, and to quote the great prophet RuPaul, can't love yourself, how the hell are you going to love somebody else?
Yeah.
You've just been privy to the mindless midlife musings of the anime nerd, presented by Geek Grotto. For show notes and corrections, or for general geeky fun, you can visit our website at geek-grotto.com. If you're listening to us on your favorite podcast app, please like, follow, and subscribe.